Peace. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the unfortunate and tragic story of an HBCU vice president who committed suicide just a few days ago due to workplace bullying and mental damage by her supervisor, the president of the HBCU. We're going to talk about this particular story of Miss Candia Bailey and give you some of the latest details in that. Also, let's talk a little bit about what's happening with the state of young people in this country. I'm asking a question: does America hate its children? Based on a writer's view of where we are on how we're supporting children in this country compared to other countries. We'll have that conversation. Also, Florida redefines what defamation sounds like, looks like in a new bill, and what does that mean for Black America? We'll have that discussion. And later on, Kiki Palmer pens a love letter to mistreated Black women. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. First and foremost, folks, happy Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in and wanting to jump in as we have all of these discussions about what's going on in Black America. Big shout out to the online culture crew that is gathering. That's right. That's gathering on various platforms. I see the culture crew is on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. Also, you're on the Facebook platform, on Roland Martin's Facebook platform where we're streaming, and on Roland Martin's YouTube page where we're streaming as well. And folks are checking in all from around the country. I see you, Deidre Hall. Welcome back to the chat. Good to have you once again. Big brother Willie Frazier, looking forward to what you got to say. Cindy D, Pastor Damon Blissett at the Block Church is officially in the chat. The ABX girl, I see you. I see you. Pauline Hurt, Brian Christian, good to connect with you. My sister Janelle Fields, good to connect with you as well. My man Monkey Confessions, always good to hear from you. And folks, you could do the same thing as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, on Roland Martin's Facebook page. We're also streaming on our homepage at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence. Download the app for free on all of your devices. Follow us on social media. And more importantly, we ask that you just drop a little something in the bucket to help us power us through this digital space that we're in. So again, go to blackstarnetwork.com and stay in tune about what's happening in Black America. We're also streaming on Amazon platforms on a number of different spaces. Amazon News on your Fire TV. We're on Amazon Prime Video. So you can check us out on Prime Video app under Live TV and News. You can find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, then News. We're on the Freevee Network. You can find us now under News for Black Star Network, and on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, the News and Opinion. All right, I am very excited because it is Friday, and we got one of our great new contributors that's going to be joining me in a moment. She is an author, she is an educator, she's an administrator, she is a motivational speaker, and I'm certainly happy to have her insight as we have these big discussions today. We're joined now by my sister, Kimberly Morrow. Kim, happy Friday. How you feeling today?
Happy Friday. Oh, I'm feeling wonderful.
Good, good. This is Dr. King weekend.
Wonderful.
Yes.
As you can see, I'm
Well, we got to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King, and certainly I'm sure he will come up in some of these conversations we have today. Folks, again, you can join us on the and be a part of the conversation. Just post your comments on the chat, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on the YouTube page. We would love to hear what you got to say. First and foremost, let me start with this very sensitive and yet urgent situation that's coming out of Lincoln University, where the vice president there, man, this is a very sad story, man. This is the Lincoln University Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey. This is the sister here. She unfortunately took her own life on January the 8th, just a few days ago. And her passing has sparked outrage from the Lincoln University alumni across the country who are calling for her supervisor, Lincoln University President Dr. John Mosley, to resign because apparently Dr. Candia Bailey had been experiencing some workplace bullying, some serious harassment, and as she puts it in a number of emails, a lot of mental damage. And so, Kimberly, when we look at education, especially higher education, well, we've seen the situation with Harvard with Claudine Gay, but this situation here is something. And I can't stop thinking about Claudine. I'm sure she can't stop thinking about how far things could have gotten with the circumstances of her resignation, just her being there, her tenure there for 6 months. But to see that one of our great intellectuals, one of the brilliant women of our community, decided to commit suicide because of the bullying, as she describes it, from her supervisor, and Dr. John Mosley is a white male. That's Dr. John Mosley right there, folks. This is such a sensitive, yet this, as I mentioned, this is an urgent situation. And I just want to share with you, crew, just some of the latest, just some of the words that Dr. Candia Bailey had penned just hours before she took her life, and even more so in a few emails. Let me just share this with you based on the reports that we have seen so far. This is coming from KRCG TV, and it shows that new documents written by Candia Bailey, let's put up this first quote, please, Lise, that these documents on the day she took her life outlining University President Dr. John Mosley as causing enough harm and mental damage. Multiple emails obtained by someone close to Candia Bailey and shared with KRCG show she sent emails to Mosley and the Board of Curators outlining her request for Family and Medical Leave, FMLA, and Americans with Disability Act, ADA, state that the relationship between her and Mosley went downhill due to her severe depression and anxiety. Additional emails revealed that when she made complaints about how she was treated to the Board of Curators, the board president wrote a response back to her saying, in part, please be advised, the Board of Curators does not engage in the management of personnel issues for Lincoln University and will not be taking further actions related to this issue. Now, Dr. Candia Bailey also wrote that she was intentionally harassed and bullied, and that after receiving a poor evaluation when she asked for help, Mosley ignored requests, failing to respond to emails, or when face-to-face, danced around the topic. This is a heavy one. This is a heavy one, Kim. Talk to us. What's your initial response? What are your thoughts as we hear this tragic story? And race is certainly a part of it, but we also know it's something that that happens all across this country with workplace bullying, harassment, and it doesn't just have to come from white men, white women. I've heard stories from Black men, Black women. Matter of fact, one of my colleagues mentioned that there's an actual Facebook page of people, of a community of folks who have experienced workplace bullying to the effect that it has caused a lot of, mental and emotional damage. So what's your take on this?
I'm sorry. Give me a moment.
No, it's all right.
First of all, my heart goes out to her family, her friends, those who were close to her, because they lost someone in their lives that was clearly a presence and very strong person. And to the students of Lincoln University, my heart goes out to you all. And the sad thing about this situation is she was trying to get support. She was trying to get support from the board, She was trying to get support from the president. So what strikes me in this situation is you had this strong Black woman, this educated Black woman, who I'm sure poured everything into her position, everything into her education, everything into her students, and then to be treated so poorly to the point where it caused her to take her own life. This is just, it's devastating. It's sad. It's disgusting that she was treated in this way. What really struck me, Farajii, was the fact that she expressed that it was causing her mental damage. She let it be known that she had some mental health issues with anxiety and depression. And so they were aware. She was asking for help. And a lot of times as people, particularly as Black people, we don't share that. We don't express that we are struggling with mental health challenges. And so for her to actually have asked for help and for the board to tell her we don't manage personnel, that it's criminal. And I really hope moving forward that those people are more than asked to resign, that there needs to be some consequences to what happened with this person, with her, because it's just uncalled for. It's just uncalled for.
So there was some, and I mean, you're talking about her speaking out about the relationship that she had with the president, Dr. John Mosley. You're talking about a woman who recognized that she struggled with depression and anxiety, right?
Yes.
And she
Yes.
took this job. She graduated from Lincoln University in Missouri. Let me make that clear. This is the Missouri Lincoln University, not the one in Pennsylvania. But she took this job she graduated in 1998. She became a member of the AKA sorority. But her friends said she was a loving, generous person who radiated positivity. But after she took the position of vice president of May of last year, 2023, her friends noticed a change in her. According to one of her friends, she said her whole demeanor had changed. Yes, she was still smiling, but you could tell that something was off, something was different. Um, how do we handle that? And I'm asking because this is a workplace thing, right, Kim? But at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, your job, your livelihood, your income, these things are all on the line. You got to think about all these things, especially when you feel like the person who is quote unquote responsible for you is the source of the problem. And then you're kind of like have to just deal with it on your own, kind of just like, I don't know what to do. How should the folks in her circle handle that? Because they notice a change.
Well, I'll tell you what my mother told me when I was having issues with the job and it was starting to make me sick. And she looked at me, she said, if something happened to you tomorrow, those people, if you died at your desk, they would step over your body, put someone else in your place, and keep on moving.
I've heard that too.
You cannot consistently just keep giving your all to a job that's not going to give you anything and that's actually causing you harm. I think it was in 2013, some girlfriends of mine, we actually did an intervention with one of our dear friends who was experiencing workplace bullying. And our advice to her was to leave that position. And a lot of times we don't want to leave the position because we love our jobs. We love what we're doing. We love the people we work with. And especially if you're in education, you love your students. And we want to, quote unquote, push through it. But at some point, we have to realize that we cannot push through it. we have to leave that situation. Now, of course, there are other measures that can be taken, legal remedies, of course, but honestly, self-preservation, we have to take care of ourselves. And a lot of times we don't want to do that necessarily because we have worked so hard to be in the position. We don't want to walk away from the job. So, but like I said, we did an intervention with one of our girlfriends and we all told her she needed to walk away from that position.
And did she do it?
She did not. And it did not end well for her. Because she didn't want to walk away from it. And I didn't want to walk away from my position. I wanted to, no, the kids need me. These parents need me. They need me. And it cost me, it cost me my mental health. I ended up being hospitalized for suicide ideation. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to walk away when you put so much time and energy and effort and money into getting where you finally are. This is what where you strive to be. So I would recommend anyone in a workplace bullying position, if you're trying to resolve it on your own, you really have to look at it. What's more important, my job or my life? Because sometimes that's what it comes down to, your job or your life.
Kim, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to share what the crew is saying about this tragic case. Folks, stay with us. Post your comments as we're up to sharing them. And I want to hear more of your thoughts around this story. And I'll share some more details as to the struggle that Dr. Kendia Bailey had went through just hours before taking her own life. Folks, this is a very unfortunate story, and it opens up the conversation about accountability, because now the students and community of Lincoln University is calling for the resignation of Dr. John Mosley as a result of this situation. So what's your take on that? Should he resign? Should he step down as president of Lincoln University? Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now
We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. As we're talking about a story that has taken social media by storm, Black Twitter, Facebook. I'm seeing so many folks on social media kind of pushing this story out to the forefront. So we wanted to do our part here on Black Star Network to make sure that this story, Dr. Kendia Bailey, doesn't go unnoticed. This is a woman. I want to put up her picture. There she is right there. She served as Lincoln University in Missouri. She was the vice president of student affairs, Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Kendia Bailey. She committed suicide on January the 8th as a result of workplace bullying and mental damage that she felt was imposed upon by her direct supervisor, Dr. John Mosley, who serves as the university's president. Now, students and members of the Lincoln University community is calling for the resignation of Dr. Mosley, since he was the one that's responsible, according to Dr. Kendia Bailey, where she said she was intentionally harassed and bullied by the university president. And even though she had put out this cry for help, this call for help, sent emails to the board of curators, and she tried to warn and try to let people know what was going on, it seemed like not only did Dr. Mosley turn a blind eye to her depression, her anxiety, her concerns, the board of curators turned a blind eye to her. And then at the same time, like, her friends, they felt like something was happening, but they could not get to the bottom of it. And so, of course, there's a tremendous amount of guilt that her friends are feeling, saying that I could have maybe stepped in and done something. I'm wondering, from your vantage point as not just an educator, teacher in the classroom, but as an administrator, you have started your own school, you're a principal. And something like this, how when you're talking about this in a school space, higher education learning space, what is generally the proper procedures, the protocol for handling when there are personnel differences, when there are issues like this that could potentially be very, very harmful and deadly? How is that generally handled from your vantage point, Kimberly?
I don't think it's handled very well in a lot of spaces. Honestly, it wasn't handled well in my space. A lot of times, this is the sad part. When you do share that you have some anxiety, some depression, you are really seen as you can't handle your job then. And it's not seen as, oh, we want to support you, we want to make sure you get help. Now, sometimes they may, oh, okay, if you go ahead and take some time, something like that. But behind closed doors, that's not the conversations that they're having. I've been in those administrative rooms where those are not the conversations. Then it becomes, they can't really handle their job. So, which is one of the main reasons why when I was having issues, because I'd been in the room when they had those conversations, when they talked about the other principals that had shared. That's why when it happened to me, I was not going to share what was really going on, because I already saw how you treated others. And I was not going to allow that to happen to me. So it was always, I had other illnesses that were more acceptable. I thought I was having a heart attack, or, I was having, other issues that were looked upon as okay issues, as opposed to anxiety and depression. They didn't find out about that until I had been hospitalized, and it had to come up. But I don't believe that schools are equipped to handle it with their staff. Now, with students, it's different. With students, they handle it different with students. But with staff, I don't, they're not equipped to handle it with staff, or they choose not to, whatever verbiage we want to use here. I want to go back to that board. That board, not only should that president be forced to resign, that entire board should be called to resign. There needs to be a complete overhaul at Lincoln University, and every other university needs to take notice as to what the consequences can be, and that they need to put a plan in place as to how to deal with their staff when their staff has these issues.
And Kimberly, that's my next question. With students and faculty, friends and family, and the larger community of Lincoln University calling for the resignation of Dr. Mosley, do they have a case? Do they have a leg to stand on in this case? Because I would assume that trying to quote unquote prove bullying would be very, very hard, since it could be a lot of face-to-face interaction. We don't know yet, and this had, well, at least this information I couldn't come across. If there were, Dr. Candia Bailey said that she had sent some emails to Dr. Mosley and he didn't respond to her about, the circumstances of their relationship, the nature of their relationship. But in terms of proving that this was an issue, I'm wondering, do they have a case to stand on? Do students, do you feel like there's something enough as evidence to remove him from the position and to essentially hold him accountable for the death of another person?
That's a good question, and of course we don't know that. But for him, he knows what he did or what he did not do, and so for sensitivity's sake, he should probably either put out a statement, maybe he takes a leave of absence. I don't know. He should definitely do something, showing up and acting as though that tragedy didn't occur, calling for a reevaluation of how they treat employees who have shared that they have anxiety and depression. Anything, something has to be done. Something has to be done. And if she shared in an email that she had anxiety and depression and he did not respond, there are ways to see if he received the email. There are read receipts. So there is a way to find out what did he know and when did he know it. And there should definitely be some type of investigation should take place at that school.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the least. Let me share what some of the crew is saying. And folks, y'all can post your comments on Roland Martin's Facebook page and Roland Martin's YouTube page, and we'll try to get to as many of your comments as possible. But Lori, you checked in. Lori Parks, you said this is one of the many reasons why the teachers are quitting their jobs all across this country, not only with type of circumstances, but there are others to why they are quitting and being burnt out. And I've heard that. I've heard from a number of teachers. I know teachers in Maryland who say that sometimes the harassment, and they didn't go into detail in terms of their supervisor, but just in dealing with the community, parents, and all of that, that sometimes the harassment, sometimes the level of bullying, from parents. I personally know of experiences where teachers were bullied by students, family members, and whatnot. Like, this adds to the mental anguish. And I'm wondering, Kimberly, how do schools supposed to handle a situation like that? You got parents yelling at you, coming up in your face, threatening you, all types of things. And a lot of and here's what I hear from a lot of teachers, and I'm sure you probably heard this as well. They don't feel protected. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like the school is thinking about their best interest. And to Janelle's point, she pointed out that she said that the president rules the culture of the organization. I'm sure that she is not the only person that had issues there. People are not just cogs in a machine, but even cogs get maintenance. So there's a cultural view. There is a shift that's expected. But some teachers and educators just don't feel safe in some of these spaces.
Exactly. And it's not just teachers and it's not just teachers. We know it's support staff as well. It's people who work in the school system do not feel safe and protected. When I was a principal at a traditional public school, and some of my teachers if they had set up a conference with a parent, they would ask me to sit in on that meeting with them because they did not feel safe, but they knew that I would support them and I would not allow the parents to, go off on them. I would support my teachers. But if my teacher was wrong, I was not going to just throw that teacher under the bus, but I would support in a way to where I would let the parent know this is an issue, we're going to resolve it, but I wouldn't just co-sign what the teacher was saying if the teacher was wrong. So there's a difference between supporting the teacher, protecting the teacher, making sure the teacher is safe, but also not condoning if a teacher is wrong. So there's that fine line that we have to walk. Exactly.
It's a very fine line. And I hope that justice takes place. You know what I'm saying, Kimberly?
Yes,
I hope that justice does take place. We're going to continue to follow this story. I mean, it's such a sad and unfortunate story. It opens up the conversation about suicide prevention. It opens up the conversation about really being in tune with people. If something seems off with your family and your friends or your coworkers that, and you genuinely can ask more questions and try to help them, because we don't know where people's minds are, especially nowadays. So many things are happening. And a lot of adults, it's not just children, a lot of adults suffer from everything from depression to anxiety to suicide ideation, as you mentioned earlier. A lot of people are struggling. And we can't assume that just a quick pat on the back and be like, it's okay, it'll get better. When some people don't truly believe, they lose faith, they lose hope, and they feel like they're in the darkness. They don't believe that it's going to get better. And so, we're going to keep our eyes on the story. I hope justice comes out for Dr. Antoinette. More importantly, I hope that Lincoln University can use this. The board of curators, they got to be removed. The president, he has to be removed. Even though it's one teacher, one professor, one personnel member, the fact is that if it's one too many, especially when somebody sends you emails and they're talking to people and the whole nine, and everyone turns a blind eye. Those in leadership needs to be removed, and they need to be removed now. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about where we are in this country and this country's relationship with the next generation with children. I've read this article, how a woman who went to Greece, spent some time with her family, and she realized that America, may not be the #1 country to treat children right. I'm going to share with you what she had to say from her experience in Greece and how that looks and how it looks for our experience here in America with our children. So stay with us. That conversation is coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Kimberly Morrow, who is an educator, administrator, author, motivational speaker, and one of our new contributors here on The Culture. She'll be joining us on Fridays for a few weeks here in 2024, and we're really, really excited to have her insight as she brings so much to the conversation. And this is why I wanted to have this next discussion with you, Kimberly, because you are a woman who works with children. You understand. You like adults, but you love children. Right. So, yeah. But there is this, and I always thought this was interesting. I saw this article last night and I started reading it and I was like, you know what? We need to talk about this because this is an article about the idea. Does America truly support love the children? Do we love children in this country? So I'm asking that question. Does America hate its children? And here's why. This article written by Lydia Kessling, she talks about her experience of going to Greece, spending time with her family there. And she says she was struck by a public attitude toward children that she seldom encounters in America. And that attitude is one of unequivocal support for children. And she said that, and she talks about that how in America, we socialize our children to see strangers not as helpers, but as threats. She said that we worried parents scour the Nextdoor app for loiterers and miscreants. Neighbors routinely call the police when parents let their children go outside. And she said, when kids aren't being treated as endangered, they're often viewed as a nuisance. She said, how many articles have I read about whether children should be allowed on airplanes or at weddings or in restaurants? She also said this, let me post this other quote here. Let's go to the quote one, please, Lise. Thank you. She said that every country has a share of adults who pose a threat to children, but the difference in how America treats its kids goes far beyond the "it takes a village" attitude that prevails in countries like Greece. She said virtually every other industrialized nation provides more government aid for their children than America does. She goes on to say, of the 38 countries that belong to the leading Western Trade Alliance, the US ranks number 32 in spending on early childhood. I'm gonna stop there. Kim, because I need your take on this. Do you get a sense as an educator, as one who loves children and likes adults, do you get a sense that we just don't have the best view of children in this country compared to other countries around the world?
Yes, and let me just further that. So I've told you before, I'm a history teacher. That's
right.
That's the subject that I taught. And this is a conversation I would talk to my students about. In this country, we have a history of children were our workers. Up until 1938, there wasn't even a child labor law. And so children were expected to work. They were expected to work on a farm. They were expected to work. So
She
really,
talks about that. Yep.
right. So really, in this country of America, we have a history with treating our children as laborers, as commodities. And so, and I would tell my students, listen, in the quote unquote old days, if you couldn't contribute to the household, you were seen as a liability. So this is who we have been as a country. So when I hear it asked as a question, it's like, duh, this is what we're based on. This is what we're built on.
But how did that happen, though? How did we get to that place, though, Ken? How did we get to a place where we hate our own seeds and our own offspring, right? Especially when we propagate that America, the future, the children are the future. You know, the great song, the great Whitney Houston said that the children are the future, and we sometimes promote that. But to your point, you're absolutely right that some of the policies and just the overall current attitudes and culture, we're not seeing the future as bright, right? And I'm just talking about, this is not just about the Black children or white children, but I just see it in people's faces. People are really annoyed. People, like my children, people always say, oh, your children are so well behaved. And I wonder to myself, like, well, my child is, we feed them 3 times a day and they go to the bathroom, and you know what I mean? It's like, they're not pets, they're human beings, right? And it's like, if your child is not well behaved, if your child is being a child, it's frowned upon. If your child is being silly, people in the supermarkets just, oh man, something needs to be done to that miscreant right there. It's really, really frowned upon. And I'm thinking to myself, when did this happen?
Before you were born, before I was born, back in the 1800s, back in the 1700s. So it's just carried on. My parents came of the belief children should be seen and not heard. And so you have a good faction of the population that would like to go back to that period of time. There was a song out many years ago, or TV show, Children Are People Too. And my father would say, no, they're not. My father is 83 or 84 years old now. And he still has that belief, children are not people. So this is not so when I look at an article like that and I go, you're just now realizing that? That's my take on it. You're just realizing that? This is just what it has been in this country. And I would teach my students about that. I would have them pull up articles, show them where children were working in the factories. They had to work on the farm. They weren't expected to be in school all year round because they had to work on the farm. So I feel like in this country, we're actually trying to move backwards. So when I hear people say, let's go back to the old days, that's what you want to go back to, where children have to work. And they're even lowering the age that children can work. You read about that. And so it's it's as though they want to go back to this time period where children were laborers. And so
That's
when you
interesting.
say, why does America hate its children? When did it love its children? Like, that's what I want to know. As a whole, I'm not talking about pockets, and I'm not talking about some people. I'm talking about as a whole.
Yeah.
When did America love its children? I want to know when.
Do you feel like, hey, Kimberly, do you feel like that is the attitude that Black folks in this country carry on? I mean, you talked about your father, but I'm just saying, do you feel like that's still the prevalent attitude for Black America, that we essentially don't see children as people, as another independent, critical thinking, mass of existence?
I don't want to speak for all Black people, because
I know you're not, but I'm just saying, you're an educator, so
we are not a monolith.
We're not a monolith.
But I will say, it has been my experience, and I have seen and heard those things more so from our community, where we favor corporal punishment. They need to be whipped, et cetera, et cetera. So in my opinion, I do see that happens a lot more in our community, probably because the way we were raised. Like I said, I don't think I'm that old, but I guess if my father is 83 and my mother would be in her mid 70s, maybe I am that old. But that is maybe I am that old. But that is that was our reality.
That was our reality.
That was our reality.
Hey, Lise, could you pull up quote number 4? Because I want to speak directly to what Kimberly has spoken to. This is something that I did not know. Thank you, Lise. She said, check this out. In the same article, folks, the U.S., if y'all didn't know, the U.S. is the only member of the United Nations that hasn't ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which includes the right to be free from violence and labor exploitation. The leading cause of death for American children and teens is gun violence. And as we know, the labor issues of children in this country. And so she brings it up, which is why we brought up this question, all of which raises the question, why does America hate its children? We still have and see, when people talk about progress, and I've been doing some reading, Kimberly, and I'm going to say this, and we got to take a quick pause, but I've been doing some reading, looking at other countries, and it's sad. Crew, if y'all have not read on some of the progressive thinking and policies that other countries have, whether it's in Europe or some other parts of the world, it is truly, truly sad that America can boast, talk about American exceptionalism. We could talk about we're number one. And when you look at, when it comes down to human rights issues, when it comes down to civil rights issues, when it comes down to children issues, the education, America is lagging far behind. When it comes down to women's role, I was just read that there are 3 major countries that have a majority female leadership. America, we still haven't had a woman president yet. When we look at the situation here with the children, one of the big things that I'm going to talk about it when we come back from break, is the fact that we are still struggling and fighting over paid leave for families. We're still fighting and struggling over what we saw what happened during the pandemic, but had to end, the child tax credit, and how the government in other countries, that when you have a child, they support you for so many amount of years. I mean, we're so far behind in certain areas. And I'm like, how can we say that we are the most progressive when it shows otherwise? Let me just take a couple of comments very quickly as we talk about this. And folks were asking the question, does America hate its children? What's your take on it? Post your comments. Lori Parks, you said from Indiana, and you are correctly right, having children work in bars, especially the female girl child. Damn. Girl children working in bars. Wow. Karen Connor, thank you, Lori. Karen Connor, my sister, checking in. She said, Karen, you said, I was in Greece in October and November 2023 and agree with this. I witnessed how loving the Greek people are with their children. I have seen this in other countries as well. What the hell is going on in America? Robin Welch. Thank you, Karen. You said where I live, the age used to be 16 before you could work. Now it's 14. Why do we adultify children? Why do we want children to grow up so fast? And this is something I tell my own son and daughter. Take time. Don't rush to grow up, because you got many more years in front of you, God willing, than behind you as a child. Don't rush to grow up. Enjoy your childhood, because everybody wants you to grow up so fast. For what? To pay bills? To take on responsibilities of the household? To be stressed out by 35?
Right.
What are we encouraging our children to do? And we always tell them, I hear our people, Kimberly, and I'm sure you heard it in school settings and in communities. You need to grow up. You need to be a man.
Right.
You're telling 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and girls and boys, they need to grow up, need to be an adult. For what? It's like we're angry at them. It's like we're seriously angry at our children. The crazier part is that we're responsible for bringing them into the world.
Right. And back in the old. Okay,
yeah, go ahead, Kimberly. You want to say something, or you want me to? I don't want you to lose your thought.
No, I'll keep it.
You'll keep it? Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation on the other side. Does America hate its children? Joining us also is going to be another educator, dynamic sister, our sister Corinna Denise. She's going to be joining us. I want to hear what she has to say about this. And of course, we'll continue to take your comments. So post your comments on Roland Martin's Facebook and YouTube page. And stay with us, folks. You just tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second half of the show. Happy Friday, and I hope that you are doing well, and I appreciate you for tuning in. And you can participate in these conversations today as we are streaming on Roland Martin's YouTube page and Roland Martin's Facebook page. And just join us into the chat as to be a part of our online culture crew for the day. And we'll try to get to as many of your comments as possible as we have these conversations. Now, we're also streaming on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence, download the app for free, follow us on social media at Black Star Network. But more importantly, we're asking for your financial support to be investors and stakeholders in this movement as we are embarking upon carving out a new space for Black content and Black conversation like no other. So again, go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com, and we thank you for your support. Now, we've been having a conversation, folks, about children and its relationship to America based upon a recent article that I came across where the writer of the article says she went to Greece and found that Greece, their attitude, their public attitude, their policies are more amendable and more loving and caring to children, only for her to return back here to America and found out that we are still years behind making progress in making children feel safe and supported. And so we've been talking about this larger question: does America hate its children? And I've been checking in with my sister, Kimberly Morrow, who is an educator, administrator. She's a school principal. She's also a book author as well as a motivational speaker. And we're also joined by my other sister, Corinna Denise, who is a college advisor and a political strategist as well. And Corinna's always bringing it, especially when she comes on. It's always Fire Fridays with Corinna. I'm just letting you know.
Happy Friday, folks.
It's always Fire Fridays when Corinna comes on, Kimberly. So you are part of the fire today, but we're having this conversation. Corinna, just thinking about this relationship that we have in this country, thinking about policy, thinking about culture and attitude, do you feel like America hates its children at this point?
Hate is such a strong word. I don't know if I want to say hate, but I think there definitely is some dislike. It just makes me think of, what my mom would say to me, what my grandmother would say to her when she was growing up, children are to be seen and not heard.
Damn, everybody's been told that. What the hell is going on in the Black people homes, man? Damn.
People's conversation.
Wait a minute, hold on, Corinna. Do we need to have like a therapy session or something? Because how come we got 3 Black folks, none of us grew up under the same household. We all been told, shut the hell up. Damn.
Yeah.
Crew, we can't keep telling our children to shut the hell up. Like, no, this is damaging. This is really a problem.
I think a lot of it too, Farajii, is that in order for children to learn, something like respect, let's just say that, right? It also has to be demonstrated. The way that we talk to them now, I'm not saying they don't need discipline, But how do we speak to our children, right? Where we're trying to get the lesson that we're trying to implement, and for them to in turn, follow said lesson. So, we're not always speaking to them in a manner demonstrating respect. And I'm just giving my purview, especially as an educator, where sometimes it can get into that, that in a way where we're basically talking at them instead of to them, and making sure that they have a listening ear. Like, just to give an example, let's say maybe they need to do their homework, right? Instead of just telling them like, look, you better do this homework, get it done. Maybe sometimes give them a choice where they see they can't move away from doing the homework. Like, okay, it's time to do homework. Would you like to do it at your desk in your room, or would you like to do it at the kitchen table, right? So they know like they have a choice, but they're not getting out of the homework. But I think that children are to be seen and not heard. There are appropriate times for that, but then sometimes, we're not making them privy to things that they should know, or breaking it down in a manner in which they should understand. I do think children need to have
some boundaries
stuff in public, right? There's
right.
You got kids who are just off the chain, but not everything is actually in the parents' control. There are instances where that could happen. But I don't know if I want to say hate. I mean, I think it depends on how we view it, but I do think we need to make a conscious effort how we're speaking to kids, because children, in many retrospects, especially younger children, they're innocent. So they're like sponges, right? They're going to mimic things that we see or things that we do. And, more often than not, I know on yesterday's show, some of the conversation was about that pole dancing, right? And what's appropriate for kids. But it's like, if they see us mimicking adult-like behavior, right in their purview, they're going to think that's normal and go ahead and do it too. But, so I think
and I agree with you
clear about that. But I mean, I think there's a strong dislike. I think I need a little bit more before I go to hate. But I think we definitely need to work on demonstrating what respect looks like in order for kids to act respectfully. And I don't think we always do that as adults, because it sometimes just comes across as a reprimand, like, you're going to do this because I said so, rather than explaining
that doesn't work.
Why it's beneficial for them to do it. You know what I mean?
Hey, let me just tell you, as a dad of a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, who tell me through their facial expressions, man, you better get the F out of here with that mess. Certain things just doesn't work. Like, you can't just be like, just do what I say. I remember growing up under those rules. And, I didn't want to piss off my parents. I didn't want to piss off my dad. So, of course, I did it. But at the end of the day, it left a little bitterness in my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, it made me feel a certain way. Like, you don't want me to ask questions. You don't want me to get a better understanding. And I think that that's part of the issue, especially when you're talking about as a parent to a child. Like, is the issue to just tell them what to do, or is the issue to try to explain so they can understand why you decided to punish them, or why are you telling them to do a certain thing? So that way they can they can connect the dots for themselves. Because when you're not around as a parent, and they have to rely on their own thinking on how to handle themselves, whether they're with their friends or when they're out there in the streets, then you want them to be able to connect the dots. Like, I shouldn't do this because this is going to be the potential consequence, right?
And I think you brought up a good point, Farajii. Like, basically that, are we explaining in a way where they understand, you did, this was wrong, and this is why you're being punished, or this is the consequence, or this is why I want you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Are we always explaining? Sometimes we're just saying, no, you need to do it because I said so. And then in turn, the child doesn't understand why the parent is instructing them to do this, right? Because, and a lot of times I think, it's out of love that we discipline our kids. Hopefully, most of us.
Hopefully, yeah, but I was saying hopefully.
But at the same time, and there's going to be a time where they do try you, okay? So I'm not saying you're supposed to let them off the hook for that. But what I am saying is that, yes, initially we do need to explain so that they understand, so that they have the will to want to do the right thing, or to do the things that you're asking them to do.
And here's the thing, Kimberly, and we got to take a quick pause after this, but here's the thing. I think a lot of that is due to lazy parenting. I think that we want to approach parenting because we got to, look, to be an adult parent in today's time, we understand that there are a lot of complexities and challenges, but lazy parenting. We don't want to take the time to really invest in some way, shape, or form in talking to our children, building that relationship, exposing our thought process to them. We're just like, you just do what just say what, just follow. Now, I teach my son, I try to explain to him my rationale behind making certain decisions. But then I also try to tell him, like, look, son, if there's ever an emergency, you're just going to have to listen. Like, take me on my word. But for him at 10 years old, as a cerebral and critical thinking little black boy that he is, he needs to have some assurance. And I know this might sound crazy to some of you, but he needs to feel like my dad can make the right decisions. And so that is a challenge for some parents, because you're trying to force them to have faith and trust in your decision making. Because guess what? I think we all know children watch you. They watch everything you do. So if stuff is not happening, if the household is not operating at an optimal level, then guess what they're looking at? Like, damn, dad ain't or mom ain't paid the bill. like they're looking at, like, how are you making decisions? Talk to me, Kimberly.
Well, I don't like the term lazy parenting. I think it's a lot of time parenting comes from you parent how you were parented. And I don't necessarily believe that they're trying to be lazy parents. I think they're parenting the way they were parented, or sometimes the opposite of how they were parented. But you're right, it does take work, and it does take a lot of work to actually be able to sit and discuss and explain to your child why you're having those expectations of them. And for many of us, that is just not how we were raised. My mother would say, you don't get to ask me why.
Yep.
And
I remember those.
She would frequently tell us, I will tell you what I want you to think. Don't
now, let me ask you a question. Oh, wait, Kimberly, look, I'm gonna ask you this question, and I don't want you to, because I'm gonna just ask you this question. The way you are now in your life, do you agree with that thinking and rationale?
The way my parents raised me?
Yes, and that statement, like, don't question me. Because I'm teaching, like, if we're asking our children to be critical thinkers, we're asking our children to be inquisitive. We're telling them it's okay to ask questions. Like, I even tell my son, you can even go to God and ask questions in the right spirit. So nobody is above asking questions, in my view, right? But do you agree with that now?
I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Do I agree with my mother telling me, don't tell me what you think, I will tell you what to think?
Yes.
No, I don't agree with that. and fortunately, before she passed away, we were able to have those conversations. And she even realized, after her evolution and going to school and getting a degree and everything, and she even realized, that was not that was not the thing to do. So we had a lot of conversations while I was an adult, and we actually got to talk those things through. But again,
that's awesome.
She treated me, that's how she was raised. That's why I said I don't think it's lazy parenting. I think it's you parent how you were parented. She parented me how she was parented. And she learned later that there was another way to do it. So, yeah.
I understand. I don't want to get you in trouble with your ancestors. I don't want to get you in trouble. Mr. Define, you said sometimes they need to know because I said so. Gentle parenting is an experiment that we will not know works until we reach a point where it might be too late to turn back. Gentle parenting. Everybody says that. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the chat. McCole, you said the policies and responses to the abuse, murder, hunger, food insecurity, being unhoused, and the mental health of children give the message that America doesn't value our children. Absolutely. Someone else in the chat mentioned that if you can arrest kindergartners, that just goes to show you that we don't like our own children. Let me see if I can get one more before we take our next pause. I saw who was it? I think it was Janelle. You made the mention about having children. Oh, there you go. You said, Janelle, there are examples of how to successfully treat and grow the future leaders of our nation, but America's too arrogant to follow others' examples.
Farajii, if I may just jump in real quick. Oh my God.
No, you can't jump in.
Those comments just made me think, though, crew, it just made me think about how when it comes to the crisis we have going on right now with gun violence in this country, and especially in schools, that makes me reevaluate the question, does America hate its children? You see, initially, I guess I didn't necessarily receive it in that context, but now that we're discussing it and fleshing it out and unpacking it, oh my God, it's like, I'm kind of like borderline, yes, because what is so hard to get sensible gun laws in this country? Because students don't feel safe. We have done too many shooter drills, right? In the schools, and God forbid if someone actually comes in, kids are actually raising the questions like, do we have a chance at surviving this? So yeah, and speaking also to the comment about all the other atrocities, poverty, housing, all these other things that plague students and their families, where they don't have a stable mindset to focus on their academics and extracurricular activities, right? So, and the fact that a lot of our legislators are sitting lackadaisical to that. Yeah, we have to raise those questions. Does America hate our children? And now that I'm really thinking on that, yeah, I'd have to say borderline just about, because especially with this gun crisis, it's beyond ridiculous that
absolutely
and teachers and administrators don't feel safe in school of all places. So,
and I'm gonna go back and Corinna to absolutely, and just as we take our next pause, keeping in mind the leading cause of death for American children and teens is gun violence right now. That's the leading cause of death. Now, when we come forward, I want to continue this conversation because there is an effort in this country to reform or to revamp or to really institute some mandated paid parental leave. Now, this is on the policy side of things, folks. It's not just about culture and attitude. This is our policy that shows that there isn't support for the woman, there isn't support for the family here in this country to support us in giving us the time and space to grow. I want to get your take on that, and I'm also going to ask both Corinna and Kimberly's take on that as well. So stay with us. The conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. The conversation that we got cooking right now is the one about America and its relationship with its children. Does America hate its children? Do we hate our kids in this country? I'm talking to my sisters, Kimberly Morrow, who is an author, who is an administrator, educator. She's a professional speaker as well. She's talking about all types of things in the context of both schools and in the community. So we welcome Kimberly for being a part of this conversation. Also, we're checking in with Corinna Denise, a college admissions advisor. She is also a political strategist. And she is also given her thoughts on this as she's been working with children of all ages as well. I want to go to what Grandma Sings 2 had to say in our crew. And welcome back, Grandma Sings 2. You said the older way of parenting came from our history as enslaved people. This conversation is part of our people's evolution. I'm glad it is. I hope it is. Because I feel like, Kimberly, we got to debunk some things, right? Like letting people know, like it's certain things that we were told as children is either not acceptable now or it just doesn't work, right? Like, you know, and I know that I kind of grew up in a parenting, and I don't think my father nor my mother, but I don't think, you know, with my father, I don't think he was intentional about this, but it's like a fear-based style of parenting, right, that we have seen. And we can go through a number of different things about what's happening in individual households. But I think also to speak to this question, does America hate its children? I think it also speaks about the policies. Some of the policies in this country are so anti-family, anti-woman, anti-dad, anti-children. It's like, damn, does America really want you to be married? Does America really want you to have children? Here's one of the issues, and this goes back to the article that that Lydia Kisling talked about when she asked this question about America hating its children. She pointed out, let's go to quote number 2, please, Lise. She said that America, by contrast, has no mandated paid parental leave. It has no universal child care. Only 1/3 of American families can afford child care, which consumes 27% of their income on average. Parents are being forced to leave big cities because they can't absorb the cost of childcare, while those in rural areas often can't find care at all. Let's go to quote 3, please. She says, America's rampant child neglect doesn't stop with this lack of daycare. Infants are more likely to die in childbirth, in America than in any other rich nation, and U.S. newborns are more likely to grow up in poverty. Millions of children attend public schools that are literally falling apart. We got some real problems here, Kimberly. Yes. So there's no paid parental leave, no universal child care. We're seeing that children are dying before they have a chance to grow, and schools are falling apart. And there's this ongoing battle, whether it's in Congress, whether it's in state legislatures, whether it's at the White House. There's this ongoing battle that essentially that shows where's the love for the children? Where's the love for the family unit at? What's your take on this?
Well, that's why when they were talking about overturning Roe v. Wade and pro-life, so you're pro-life when the baby is inside the mother, but when the baby comes out, then you're no longer pro-life, because it shows you're not, because of the policies that you have in place. There is no support for mothers after the child is born. After the child is born, everything that she said in the article, high daycare costs, high medical costs. It's as though they don't want to help the parent once the child is born. And it's interesting because in an article in 2022, a few Republicans had said that they are going to have to start doing better when it comes to supporting parents outside of the pregnancy.
Wait, and this is here comes the bullshit. Can we say that?
Yes, and this was in 2022. I'm going to give you a quote here. It says, we have to start thinking in terms of some of these things now that Roe has been overturned, to be more supportive of families and mothers. That was Senator Charles Grassley, Iowa. This is what he told to Axios. But where's the legislation? What have they done? And that was in 2022, and we are now January 2024, and we're still having this conversation. So I hear what Coretta said. She didn't like the term, why does America hate children? That's so strong. But my question in the beginning was, when has America loved children?
Well, you know what? I now that we're, like I said, now that we're really unpacking this, it really made me rethink, the question. And you know what? I think for context here, I think it's very important that we define America. Who is America? Because that can change depending on the room, depending on the conversation. And I will just define America right now for my point of view. If we're defining it based on who's the majority in that legislature right now, they want to strip, food SNAP programs, school lunch, you name it, right? They're taking away, banning history, taking away books, kids are now holding a phone more often, right? Or a tablet rather than picking up a book and reading it, right? So yeah, I feel you, Kimberly, on that. When has America ever loved our children? Like, I think we should reframe the question. But in terms of America, as far as the legislation that is lacking, schools falling apart, we both know as educators, we have come out of our own pockets, to pay for things or resources that our kids need. And we're begging, pleading like, hey, can you just make a little room in your budget this year for this? Like, I've only been asking you like the past 4 years. So more and more, yeah, I'm starting to feel like, yeah, do they hate our children? But I think you make the point of an even stronger question. When has America ever loved its children? Because there's so many examples that we can give where we have demonstrated otherwise. If you say you do, we don't see it when we have to be begging and pleading for resources. And we have all of these, things happening that we shouldn't have to deal with, like the gun violence, like to your point with the abortion, you care about the child supposedly when they're in the womb, but when they're actually here, a living, breathing vessel in the flesh, you could give a damn.
Absolutely. And the paid parental leave is the issue that I'm seeing right now. Tennis champion Naomi Osaka, she's a part of an effort where she is advocating for paid parental leave. And because she had found, since she just got her daughter, and she has the privilege to take off of the amount of time she needs to take off and then to return to her profession, right? Because she's a tennis player. But she recognizes also that this is not the case, that she's like an outlier of the whole situation, that this is not the case for millions of mothers back home who have to like adjust between taking care of their children. They got to make some women, y'all got to make some very, very critical decisions about, okay, do I take this amount of time? Y'all can have a baby. And then it's like, hey, you got to figure out when you get right back to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've worked in daycare.
And then men, we on the outside of that. We don't even get a chance.
No.
We don't even get a chance. There are countries, again, I'm going back to what I said earlier. There are countries in this globe that allow both mothers and fathers to take time to get adjusted to the new addition to their families, or to the, whether it's talking about a child being born, whether you're talking about somebody dying in the family, they give you allowances and they give you the time and the space to grieve. In this country, it's just like, keep the hell moving on. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. Nick, I'm gonna bring your stuff up here, Nick, because you said something, but I disagree with you. Let me say something. Nick, you said you all speak as if you know what's good for individual households. You are not the voice nor the authority to make such assertions backed with loud statements. The men are the leaders of the house. Okay, Nick, Mr. Nick Hawkins, what's the percentage of women who are running households in Black America? Well over 70%. Well over 70%. So when we're talking about who is leading the household, say it again, Corinna.
I said every household doesn't have a man in it, Nick.
That's the point. That's the point. So if men are the heads of the household, but the men aren't present, then who is the leadership going to fall upon?
Yeah, enlighten us, Nick.
But
Kimberly, you got something to say.
Real quick too. It ties back. You see how I'm always talking about voting? Yes, it is foolishness that we don't have paid child leave. And as a matter of fact, that was on the table, okay, in the legislature. But guess what? It didn't get the votes it needed to pass. So are we going to sit back and complain about not having it? Or are we going to show up and show out, move the people out of our way and move the people in, and then pressure them to make it happen? You see, because the more it's not going to happen if we just sit out. Ain't going to happen. They're not going to just magically have a light bulb come on and say, oh, you know what? That's the moral and just thing to do. We have never seen it in this country because it's something that is moral and just. It's always connected to that dollar bill and pressure. So in order for us to get to your point, Farajii, something like paid child leave, yes, many countries have it. Hell, we just got paternity leave like recently. You see more jobs doing that, right? And that's more so because of people advocating for that. Yeah, dad needs to be able to stay home too with mom and help adjust with a newborn in the household, right? There was pressure, there was advocacy. So all this still ties back. We're not going to get the things we need for our children to create a more loving environment. We love our children. So even if America per se doesn't love our children right now, we love our children enough that we need to change the makeup and the dynamic of what's happening in DC to get the essentials that we need for our children.
I agree. And I think Kimberly, as we close out and take this next pause, I think that it also requires us to make some different choices on our interactions within our relationship with our children. We all have been exposed to some form of toxic parenting. Can we use that term right there, Kimberly? That we've been exposed to some toxic parenting. We know that. We know. So the onus comes back on our shoulders for us to say, I'm going to do something different with my child. Even if you don't have children and you are in relationships and you are in the spaces of children, you as an adult can have a different relationship with that child. You can have a different relationship. Kimberly, you got the final word. What's your take?
I didn't really understand Nick's point. So maybe he could clarify it. We don't speak for all people. We're just speaking the fact that we should have parental and family leave, especially.
He's saying that he's saying that we're essentially speaking without authority, as if, but you don't need authority. We're part of the culture. We're part of a community of people. And even though Corinna might not have children, doesn't mean that as an educator, as one who's a part of the community, her say still has significance and weight. It doesn't. I don't understand this. People say, "Oh, well, y'all not the decision makers." Who the hell cares? We got something to say.
Exactly, and we're sharing our thoughts. And the reality is, when a woman has a child, she does need time off from work. I am a woman. I have had 2 children. I've birthed 2 children. I did need time off for work. That's the reality. So that's my final word on that subject.
And you need time off from work. You should get paid for time off for work. You should be supported for time off for work. You need to, if the states need to have childcare, here's the one thing I've seen. I've seen this time and time again. And Kimberly and Corinna, y'all probably seen the same thing. For example, teachers got to be at school sometimes at 7:30 in the morning, 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning. But if a single mother is a teacher of 2 or 3 children, even one child, what does a single mother who's a teacher supposed to do with her child that time in the morning? Yes,
let me speak on that. Please let me speak on that. So my first year teaching, I was a single mother. We started at 7 a.m. So I had to be at work at 6:30, and I had to figure out a childcare situation that opened their doors at 6 a.m. And so that was very difficult, and I had to pay for her childcare as well. So when we talk about these things, we are speaking from a place of either personal experience, or this is our experience as educators, as people who are in this community. So what we say does have value. So yes, I had to be at work at 7 a.m.
And how did you do that? This is very quick. Now you got me interested and curious. How did you manage? So you dropped her off at 6 in the morning?
I had to drop her off at the daycare at 6 in the morning. So I was able to find a daycare that opened up early, that opened at 6 in the morning. And then, but there were a number of times, I'm not even going to lie, there were a number of times that I was late because trying to, get her to daycare and get to school. I was very fortunate my first year teaching. I had this principal who I explained the situation and he understood, and the students, God bless their hearts, they would be in class sitting in their seats starting the assignment, because I would leave the assignment on the board the night before. They would start the assignment, and I had this hater teacher next door who told security that I was always late.
There's always
That's crazy.
There.
There's always a hater.
Yes, but my students were, and the security came up, he said, Miss Morrow, your students were quiet and they were working. And one student said, Miss Morrow told us she has to drop her daughter off, and she told us what to do. She told us to do our work until she gets here.
Wow, absolutely crazy. And that is the situation that a lot of women, a lot of single mothers who are working in professional roles and just in general have to face each and every day in this country. And you can't tell me that this country loves the children. America loves the kids. No, they don't. America, we don't love the kids yet. Black America, we might love the kids more than the rest of America, just by a little bit. But I think if we change the conversation and the attitudes that we have, and I think, going back to our first point, Kimberly, seeing children as human beings. They're not props. They're not cogs in the machines. They are human beings that require development, care, love, time. And we can't talk about children on our future, because if that's the case, then our future looks quite bleak right now. It looks very, very bleak. Look, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's talk about Kiki Palmer, how she pens a love letter to mistreated Black women. I want to get my take from my sisters and hear what they have to say about this situation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by Corinna Denise and my sister, Kimberly Morrow. And I want to kind of get your take, sisters, on an IG post that Kiki Palmer had pinned for mistreated Black women. She took to her Instagram to share an empowering message about the importance of loving yourself even when others can't or they choose not to. I want to share with you what Kiki had to say in this post. Let's put up that first quote, please, Lise. Thank you. When she posted, "How can I hate Black women when I date them?" This is the question that she said that men, Black men who date Black women will ask. She said, very easily, actually. So glad you asked the question. It's very easy to date someone you don't respect when you're looking for ways to feel better about yourself. She said, even if you are less successful than said woman, there is still a history of propaganda that tells you you will always be better than she is. This is based off of racial oppression and gender oppression. You may think you have created a win-win scenario for yourself to finally be better than someone. This is when the one-sided competition begins. Wow. Wow. This is something. Now, we know that Kiki Palmer, multi-hyphenated, she is an actress, she's a producer, she's a singer, she's doing all of these things, but her love life has been very, very rocky, and especially when her baby's father, Mr. Darius Jackson, went on social media a few months ago and he tried to embarrass her by talking about the dress she wore to an Usher concert and saying, "You're a mom, though." And how that opened the door for a lot of people to chime in. Now she's at a point in her relationship with Darius Jackson where she had to get a temporary restraining order after documents were leaked alleging that he had been physically abusive to her on several occasions. She was also temporarily granted sole custody of their child, Leo Aldriton, their 10-month-old son. So now she's looking to take the power back and to say to other mistreated Black women, love yourself, care for yourself, think about yourself, and don't let them try to diminish your life. Corinna, what do you make of this? This is interesting to get from Kiki Palmer, and not the fact that it's interesting because it's her, but it's just like we really are in a time and place where, as she said, and I like how she said it, there is really a war between the genders, between men and women. And if we take it, even bringing it to home, between Black men and Black women, there is some real oppression, there's some real pain, there's a lot of tyranny, there's just a lot of heartbreak. What's your take on this?
I think, too, with Kiki, I think she has revealed more in a very objective way of what she has experienced and is sharing her experience, especially penning this and speaking to us, right? Other Black women. And I appreciate that she raised the point that just because you're dating a Black woman doesn't mean you don't hate her or have some sort of, something against her, right? We see that happen in a lot of different situations, not just this, which she's speaking to. But I think she's trying to magnify the causes of that, right? Like why, even though we're in this relationship together, right, that you would still decide to mistreat me. And she points it out in the letter, right? Because of our history of racial oppression, particularly, let's just say in this country, right? But yeah, I appreciate that she's bringing an awareness. I'm surprised how open that she's been. I feel like, again, she is speaking very directly to us and sharing a lot of her experience, right, from an objective point of view. But yeah, it does happen. It kind of makes me think similarly to sometimes even with, you know, a white person, how they're like, well, how can I be racist? I have Black friends, you know, and you don't necessarily recognize some of the microaggressions or the mistreatment necessarily define just because I'm with you, it means that I'm not going to mistreat you or disrespect you. So I think she wanted to magnify that because I'm sure there was some feedback, you know, like, hey, you're in this same racial relationship. Why, you know, do you feel like you're being mistreated? So I definitely think there was a motivating factor there for her to pen that letter and to specifically point out that, hey, just because, you know, you're with a Black woman doesn't mean that you won't treat her.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I think Kimberly, that it speaks volumes that, you know, I'm seeing a lot more women kind of becoming more publicly assertive about who they are and not allowing quote unquote men to define who they are anymore. We're in a very interesting space, but I'm concerned though, Kimberly. I'm very concerned that the conflict between the sexes has gotten so white hot at this point. This is like, it's like, do we even want to come together to try to be in some type of mutual agreement, some type of mutual respect? I mean, this situation with Kiki and her baby father went from bad to worse. But there are a lot of relationships out there like that. And I think she brings up this point that just because you date somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean you respect them. What's your take?
I agree with her. I've been in that situation, but I want to bring it to how can we move past that. So when I was a classroom teacher, and I had Black male students who had an immediate disdain for me. They just did not like me, and it was nothing that I did. What I learned very early on is they were projecting how they felt about the woman in their life, their mothers. And so when I realized that, and I was able to communicate with them and help them understand that they had some, you know, some issues there, and we were able to get to a different place. And so I think a lot of times as women, so we have these sons, we really have to be careful how, especially as single mothers of sons, we have to be careful how we're speaking to our sons, because that is going to carry over into their relationships, because they're going to see Black women as the enemy. Because their mother talked down to them, cursed them out, belittled them, whatever the case may be. And I actually, I had that experience with my male students.
You had that experience with your male student that what was the details?
Oh, did I cut out or something?
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would have male students that immediately had disdain for me. They did not like me. And it wasn't anything that I was doing, but as I would begin to talk to them, what I realized is they saw me as a Black woman who was like their mother. So I'm just another Black woman, their mother is a Black woman. And so that's why I liked where she went deeper with it when she talked about it, because it becomes this competition. Now, these males, they're my students. We're not in competition with one another, but they immediately took a disliking to me because I reminded them of their mother. And so what I was saying is, as mothers, those of us who are single mothers, we're raising Black boys, we need to be thoughtful as to how we're talking to our sons, because that will carry over into their relationships with women. So that's the way I wanted to go with that conversation. I didn't want to put it on myself, because I did date a man who did not like Black women, but it was because
he dated Black women. So yeah, wait a minute, he dated a Black woman even though he did not like Black women.
Well, it is similar to what Kiki's experience was. He didn't know he didn't like Black women, Farajii. he thought he loved Black women, but the way he treated Black women, it was in response to he did not have a good relationship with his mother. And so we were another version of his mother. And so that's why I'm saying, as an educator, I strongly urge mothers who are single mothers, you are raising a Black son, be thoughtful of how you are talking to him, because those things carry over into their relationships with women. They may be dating Black women. They think they love Black women, but at the root, they don't.
Speaking of which, real quick, Farajii,
yeah, go ahead,
named Tony in the chat basically told me about my shirt, how I can't promote.
We just blocked his ass.
And my hair.
We blocked him. All right, look, let me tell y'all something. Y'all ain't coming on his show. Hold on, let me just tell y'all something.
Tony,
no, we're not playing that game.
Don't have relaxer. I really love my kinks and curls. But you know, that's a conversation right there of hating on Black women. Like, why? You know, why?
But see, that's the thing. That's the thing that Kiki was getting to, and Tony's ass is gone. He blocked, so we're not taking that, because I don't care what y'all say. We're not having that type of disrespectful comments in the chat here. And any of the crew members, man, y'all block his ass. That's just what it is. That's how we having these conversations, because we can't grow like this. If we want to continue to hold women down, if we want to continue to crap on men that are striving to grow out and to grow into a better understanding of themselves and understanding of women, then I can't deal with misogyny. I can't deal with this patriarchal bullshit that we hear from dudes like, man, what about it? Like, man, shut the hell up, bro. Because we have done so much damage. We have done so much damage. And to your point, Kimberly, if you are that damaged and that broken as a man, you need to be dealt with. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's no way. And what Kiki was talking about is a deep down self-hatred, because there's no way in the world you can tell me you love Black women and you beat on a Black woman or you cuss a Black woman out, but I love the sisters. Or I got a daughter. That doesn't mean nothing. To me, that doesn't mean anything. That means that you putting your daughter's future at risk. That's what that's telling me, because you as a man have not been reprogrammed in your understanding of who you are and who she is. You see what I'm saying? But I get it. Like, we as men, we have to go through these things. The unfortunate part about it is that we leave a trail of tears from women because of the foolishness, the madness, and all of the trauma that we have experienced, right? And sometimes some of us have experienced trauma at the hands of Black women and Black girls, and that leads us into our adult life. So there's a lot of complexities to the situation. But back to the point about what Kiki was saying, is that if you don't have, it's so damaging, and this is the concern I have, Corinna, it's so damaging to this point now where we can't even have conversations. We can't even talk about this without misogyny, like that, without trauma. And yeah.
And if we can't have these conversations with each other, like how we have in this space, which in many ways I find it to be sacred, because we can have certain conversations on here, unlike in other places in mainstream media, then where do we have the conversations? You know, and then we're just so quick to go into defense mode and make such disparaging comments, right? Instead of taking the time to listen and to understand. So
that's true. Absolutely. And I think that for a person like Kiki, as we close out, for a person like Kiki to have the platform, she's a Golden Globe winner as well. I had forgot to mention that she just recently won the Golden Globe Award. So we got to mention that. I mean, this is the thing. And I'm seeing a trend, and we've been talking about it. We can talk about it with Simone Biles' husband, Jonathan Owens. We talk about it with Jonathan Majors. We talk about it with Darius Jackson. We're seeing this growing sentiment among young Black males that say, no, I'm the man, so you're supposed to listen and respect me at all costs, without having space for a woman to say, wait a minute, hold up. we're supposed to be partners in this process. We're supposed to be in this thing together, and you just want to take over with no vision. See, that's the thing.
You know what,
that's the
Farajii?
thing. No
that's
vision.
The problem right there. We got a lot of grown boys. I'm gonna just say it, rather than men.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's a conversation for another day.
That's all.
And
go ahead, Kimberly.
And that's exactly what I was saying. You have boys who have been damaged, and now they're trying to take on these adult relationships, and they haven't healed. They don't even know they're damaged in some cases, but they need to heal before they start embarking on a relationship with a woman, because she's ready for a grown man, not a boy. And unfortunately, like Corinna said, we do have a lot of that. We have a lot of men who haven't healed.
Absolutely. And Sister Debbie, you brought it up at this point. Sister Debbie, thank you so much for checking in. You said the woman carried the bulk of the responsibility of taking care of the children and the home. So brothers, don't be mad at her if she's tired and of doing all this, plus work a job too. I'm just saying. Come on, Sister Debbie, talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? See, you got to qualify yourself for leadership. If you want to be the quote unquote the man, you want to run things, you got to qualify yourself. You can't expect her to take care of the house, take care of the kids, pay the bills, and then you talking about you the man. Come on, bro. Come on. Where we get that from?
Too, right? And you know, all
like
a match what we're bringing to the table. It's really not that.
And then you talking about what you bring, and then you want to be like, what you bring to man, shut the hell up, bro. Like you got to qualify yourself. Look, that's the only way, y'all sisters, y'all know it. Y'all will not respect a man if he doesn't qualify himself to be respected and to lead.
That's right.
And that's what I've been taught. Like, you got to put in some work. You got to put in some time. You got to make a sacrifice, because Black women do it every day, B. Black women do it every day. And we gotta change the narrative and the conversations about this. And I know some of the brothers in here, they're probably like, man, you sound like, man, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care, because I see it every day.
Black women, y'all. And
you got to, but see, this didn't happen overnight. Look, this didn't happen. I had women to tell me and to help me to grow into an understanding of things, right? The person in my life, my children's mother, she helped me to understand some things about myself and to understand the struggle of women and the role of women. My mother and grandma, like, you have to grow into that. And I think as a man, at some point, you got to say, man, this old school thinking of our role and responsibility is so outdated that it's damaging. It's no longer effective. It's no longer helpful or useful. So, you know, if you want to be a man has to be willing to say, you know what, I was wrong on a couple of things. Let me regroup. Let me try to do something different. And then trust me, she's gonna treat you a lot better when you say, I'm sorry. Okay, everybody quiet now, y'all. Let's end the show right here.
When you have the floor, like I said, you always demonstrate your love for us, Farajii.
It's all good.
For that, okay?
It's all good. It's all good. Look, Corinna, Denise, Kimberly Morrow, I appreciate y'all so much, sisters, for joining me each and every Friday. I'm always looking forward to the conversation. Corinna, how can folks find you? Talk to us.
Feel free to follow me at Ren_Ren84 on IG. And I always want to throw in the scholarship plug. Get paid to go to college. We are sharing information and wealth of knowledge how to get scholarships.
There it is right there. Make sure y'all follow Ren on social media. She always doing something, posting something. She be coming up with pictures that some of y'all say, oh, she look like this, but then she posts a picture. You're like, damn, Corinna, where you?
Right?
Where you coming?
Oh, damn.
There it is. Kimberly, talk to us. How can people follow you and your work?
You can follow me on Instagram at Kimberly A. Morrow. Okay, I'm just getting started on this, so you know.
Oh my God!
Bear with me.
Kimberly, we're gonna need you to step up in 2024.
I got to step up my game on IG. I do. Or you can go to my website, kimaymorrow.com.
Absolutely. There it is, man. Dynamic sisters doing some great work, working in the spaces of education and empowerment for our peoples. Kimberly Morrow, thank you. Corinna, Denise, thank you for being so good for the culture. God willing, we'll see each other next week.
Have a great weekend. Peace.
And you too. Have a great weekend. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. We got to head on out. But I truly appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. Big shout out to the X crew. Big shout out to the Facebook crew. And, of course, big shout out to the YouTube crew. And we're going to just continue to have these discussions. Look, we got a long weekend. Dr. King is going to be celebrated. Take the time to not only reflect on what the great life and legacy of Dr. King, but put in some work. Volunteer. Go out to some part of your city and do some work. Connect with your neighbors. But let's start doing the work to use what Dr. King laid down as the foundation, and let's put it into practice. So big shout out to Dr. King. And of course, we're going to be having a show on Dr. King Day as we celebrate the great life and legacy of our dear beloved leader and brother. And I look forward to reconnecting with you then. But folks, make sure y'all stick around. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.